Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be speaking before you at the Institute of Management Technology to the distinguished faculty and students there. This research presentation on sustainable corporate governance is part of an ongoing project that I have on conscious capitalism. The presentation will discuss changes in how corporations view their essential responsibilities from shareholder value to a broader stakeholder value. The focus of this presentation is on the benefit corporation, a corporate form based on conscious capitalism values. And I have examples in this presentation of 3 United States corporations that embody the benefit corporation values. I'm going to be talking about and using some words and phrases with which you might be very familiar. A few of them are here: sustainable business, business that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Conscious capitalism, capitalism with an awareness that the effects of business actions have broad-based impacts on society and the environment. The triple bottom line, a balance in business thinking between profits, people, and the planet. The benefit corporation is a new legal entity in the United States that embraces this triple bottom line. Shared value, this comes from the work of Professors Porter and Kramer, and it redefines the purpose of the corporation towards creating shared value for society, the environment, and business, not just for profit per se. Learning how to do this is the best chance for business to legitimize itself again. Sustainability, I just defined it. Sustainability requires finding a balance among 3 main objectives: social progress that takes into account the needs of everyone, protection, conservation, and careful use of the natural environment, and steady, and I emphasize the word steady, and increasing levels of economic growth. Conscious capitalism. Firms with a conscious capitalist mindset push for values-based outcomes, where values represent, once again, the economic, social, and environmental concerns at global and local scales. In other words, the TBL. The conscious business movement emerged from the theory of corporate social responsibility and the age-old ethical concept of do no harm. Major arguments for conscious capitalism are, and you've probably discussed and argued these things in your classes and your presentations. Major arguments are: it corrects social problems caused by business. If business does the right thing, it discourages government regulations. Firms with a conscious capital mindset learn to adapt with super flexibility in turbulent environments. It improves business value and the intangible but very important aspect and asset of a business firm, its reputation. Customer-centered corporate consciousness gets customers engaged in the business as well. The TBL, we just talked about it, is a framework developed by Professor John Elkington in 1997. It's an integral part of CC. It's the framework that accounts for 3 dimensions of performance. Once again, social, economic, and environmental. Major business scandals that underpin this dialogue have been going on for several decades. There were financial scandals. We all know Enron. Of course, I'm talking to an Indian audience, and you know that you have India's Enron, the Satyam scandal. We have WorldCom, Tyco, many, Adelphia, many scandals. And the research shows that reputation losses from these scandals are quite great. and they're greater than if the company itself had spent money to regulate themselves. Environmental, we've gone through many of environmental scandals as well. Most recently, the BP scandal, or the British petroleum scandal in the Gulf of Mexico. There are the Pacific Gaia garbage patch. There's a whole area in the ocean about the size of Texas and growing, where the sea is dead. It's filled with garbage. The garbage is floating over there. Lessons learned. There are costs to the environment. The environment is a common good. We learned that from economics. A common good belongs to everybody. A common good does not belong to any particular business. That is, water, land, and air belong to everybody and must be preserved for everybody and for the future generations that come after us. And these costs, these environmental disasters, the Exxon Valdez spill, Deepwater Horizon, and so on, the costs to these to the planet are still accruing. With all of this, with all these scandals and all the development of corporate social responsibility, there has been a rise in the corporate mindset that a new form of corporation is needed. And the benefit corporation is that new form. It's a new archetype for a fourth corporate sector for corporations. It integrates profit and non-profit firms. Broad consensus is building around corporate consciousness, and the benefit corporation archetype has an ecosystem of support, various agencies, impact investors, groups, assessment and certification agencies, measurement instruments, legal and technical assistance, reporting standards. All of this come together to build support for this kind of corporation. A rapid growth of this corporate class shows that society has changed its views of what the essential responsibilities of a corporation are today. So overall, 20 states in the United States have enacted this benefit corporation legislation. 13 states are just introducing it, and many other states are in the process of developing it. CEO Rob Thomas of environmentally, what we call a green retirement fund, it's a new benefit corporation called Social K, says this form of corporation sends a message that we take seriously the opportunities for a business to bake into its DNA that we are here for more than just financial return. I'm going to show you a film clip that was filmed and shown on our public broadcasting service, and it gives you an idea of the many benefit corporations that have come about, how benefit corporations have been certified by certifying agencies, so that it's not, you might be skeptical because you're a skeptical audience. You might say, how do we know that they are doing good work? Well, we have certification agencies like the B Corp that certify corporations on 200 variables. If they make a certain percentage of those variables, they are really doing the work. They're not just greenwashing, just PR. They're really doing CR, corporate responsibility.
Next, companies that are making social and environmental change a part of their legal business mission, one that goes beyond profits. The NewsHour's economics correspondent Paul Salmon looks at what's behind the small wave of companies signing on. It's part of his ongoing reporting, making sense of financial news.
Celebrating the passage of a new law in New York State that will officially recognize companies with a conscience.
There's no reason that you can't care about the world and also care about your own business.
The folks at the Tribeca offices of nonprofit B Lab are behind the law which creates a new corporate class called a benefit corporation. Firms that make money and a positive impact on society. 7 states have already passed Benefit Corp legislation. B-Lab co-founder Andrew Kasoy.
Existing corporate law was built for maximization of shareholder value, and so the legal innovation here is that idea that the directors and the officers of the company are now protected to be able to consider a broader set of interests.
The law protects firms that file as benefit corporations from shareholder lawsuits that could otherwise charge they didn't maximize profits. B Corps are legally mandated to maximize social benefits as well. Long before any laws were passed, Kasoy, along with his former Stanford University roommates J. Cohn Gilbert and Bart Houlihan, concocted B-Lab to certify B Corps, making sure that companies officially doing good actually work.
Every company today markets itself as one of the good guys. The thing that B-Lab does as a nonprofit is do a lot of that rigorous research and independent verification on behalf of all those consumers that want to know about the company that stands behind the product.
B-Lab rates firms on how well they care for employees, the environment, the community. If they get a score of 80 or more out of a possible 200, they're certified B Corps and can market themselves as such. In 5 years, some 500 companies have been certified, like countertop maker Icestone. Its factory in the Brooklyn Navy Yard daylit to stint on electricity. Its product made partly of glass diverted from landfills and made using recycled water. Icestone's workers are paid $15 an hour minimum in a low-income area to do environmentally friendly manufacturing. CEO Dal Lamagna founded and later sold the socially responsible bathroom accessorizer Tweezerman.
I would argue this is even better for the shareholders. For instance, I sell Tweezerman for a lot more money than I would have sold it had I operated the traditional way, to just be an exploitative operator.
But Lamagna realized firms like his needed some protection when his friends Ben and Jerry had to sell their iconic ice cream company to the highest bidder for fear of shareholder suits.
The B Corporation has arrived to give us cover, in effect, legal cover, so that we can operate this way without having some shareholder saying, hey, wait a minute, you can't be selling your company for $1 less than the most you can get.
And even the foulest of the foul are treated well here.
What's the owl for?
The owls got rid of the pigeons. When I got here, there were 20 or 30 pigeons in the factory, and we couldn't get rid of them. And, you know, we're a B Corp, so we remain. So I hung owls all over the factory. The pigeons were lined up, and they walked out the door.
Icestone is one kind of B Corp. Revolution Foods another. Co-founder Kristen Richmond.
We're serving 120,000 healthy meals a day, 80% of which are served to students on the free and reduced lunch program.
Cooks at 7 culinary centers around the country prepare fresh school meals daily, using no artificial ingredients, with fresh fruit and vegetables galore. Each morning, the meals are trucked to schools like Potomac Lighthouse in Northeast D.C., where kids get low-fat, low-cal alternatives to today's traditional fare, though this day's health food wasn't instantly recognizable.
Milk, butterscotch. The swish, I forgot the name of it. We had pasta, and it was really good, and the butterscotch. It was good. I ate some of it.
The mystery veg, butternut squash. Kayla Valentine said she knew the value of eating well.
You want to keep healthy because you don't want to get sick because you're eating all this fast food and die. So that's why she's healthy.
For the B Corp vision to be long-lasting, it may depend on young people starting new businesses to embrace it. Warby Parker, for instance, a hip eyeglass maker in Manhattan's Soho that's broken the big company stranglehold on the prescription market, selling designer specs for $95. Co-founder Neil Blumenthal.
The dirty little secret in the eyewear industry is that glasses aren't that expensive to manufacture. The power is concentrated in a few large companies that are keeping prices artificially high. And we thought that we could come in, undercut them, just by doing it smarter. And we thought that that was inherent good to sort of transfer billions of dollars from these large multinational corporations to normal people.
Warby Parker now has a staff of 50. They buy carbon credits to offset their power use, keep an eagle eye on customer satisfaction. But perhaps the most appealing angle here? The firm donates prescription eyewear throughout the developing world. Co-founder Dave Gilboa.
We have a buy a pair, give a pair program, so for every pair of glasses that we sell, we distribute a pair to someone in need.
As for the daunting selection of fashionable frames,
what would I be saying if I were wearing these?
These, you might be saying that you're a hipster from Williamsburg, so we don't know.
Hipster from Williamsburg,
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, so we're not sure if these are the exact right frame for you.
And this look would be?
This would be intellectual.
Intellectual.
A reporter at a world-famous TV show.
yeah, right. Look, like all B Corps, these guys need to hawk their wares if they can hope to do anything else. B-Lab co-founder J. Cohn Gilbert.
What B Corps are doing is they're saying we're going to redefine what it means to be successful in business. We're perfectly happy to make money. We recognize that that's important, but we're not here to make money. We're here to make a difference, and the money that we make helps fuel the difference we can make.
But wait a minute. Socially responsible firms have been about to make the difference my entire career. So why is this year different? B-Lab co-founder Bart Houlihan.
You have all the elements of a marketplace, yet it wasn't quite accelerating. And then you put on top of it the financial collapse. When the broader public started to really doubt business and you create a positive alternative, all of a sudden we're preaching to the choir.
Back at the B-Lab party, lawyer Alan Bromberger was skeptical that social mindedness spells success.
If you have to pay 39 cents more per widget to buy from a company that doesn't use child labor, you're not going to be able to have the cheapest price in the marketplace necessarily, and ultimately this stuff is all going to be decided in the market.
So the movement could be successful.
It could well be that in 10 years, this is just a standard part of doing business in America and nobody thinks anything special about it.
Or it could be...
Or it could be a fad that came and went. It could be the mini skirt of the 2012. Who knows?
At the moment, though, the movement looks lively enough, with bills making business with a conscience legal pending from Colorado to North Carolina.
So it's not a fad. The conscious capital movement and the benefit corporation are developments over many years. There has been a growing support from, as we said, from multiple sources over multiple years, multiple decades actually, for this kind of corporation, this kind of philosophy. And here I show you an analysis of the 7 pillars that underline the benefit corporation that came out, that have created the need for this benefit corporation. Public outcries, the Wall Street movement, the riots in Seattle at the World Trade Center, we see those. Public outcries have grown louder and louder. UN sustainability, the UN brought over many years compacts for sustainability of the environment, which includes how businesses treat the environment in terms of how they treat water, the land, and the air. Scholars and practitioners have worked on corporate capitalism, and they worked on business ethics. Our college, where I'm from, the College of Business and Public Administration at the California State University, have signed on to the UN Secretariat for something that we call PRIME, Principles for Responsible Management Education. It was felt in the United States that business schools were not educating their students properly. They were only educating students to make money. And it was needed for the people and the planet a broader philosophy. Harvard, Cornell, all the big schools and our schools, state schools, and some schools around the world have signed on to this Principles for Responsible Management Education initiative. The market, the stock market, lists today green stocks, stocks that have a corporate purpose, a higher purpose. Certifying bodies like the B Corporation certifies green businesses and tells us that they are valid. They do follow the principles of conscious capitalism. And new analytics have emerged from the methodology community to better measure validity and reliability of green initiatives. And all of these underpin the growth of the statutory, the new archetype of the benefit corporation. What constitutes a benefit corporation? Well, a higher purpose. A compelling sense of higher purpose creates higher purpose in the mission, an extraordinary degree of engagement, and generates, and most importantly, releases organizational energy. Conscious leaders, leaders that are driven primarily by the firm's purpose rather than power or money. They lead by mentoring, motivating, developing, and inspiring people and the communities in which from which they get their bread and butter and in which they reside. A conscious culture for the organization. Within that is included accountability and transparency. Just briefly, I've talked about the broader purpose, the accountability and transparency, but benefit corporations offer clear market differentiation on social and environmental values, broad legal protection to directors and officers who pursue social and environmental goals beyond the profit motive. It gives these directors a permission to do good works like social and environmental works without being sued by their shareholders who say, we just signed up here to make profit. Ben & Jerry's, the iconic ice cream firm, was sued by its shareholders when it started to do good works. The Body Shop, same thing. Many corporations have felt this. Now they can incorporate as a benefit corporation, and the shareholders are all in tune with the higher purpose. I'm going to use three, and I've used three case studies in the paper that accompanies this presentation. Patagonia, it's an outdoor sports manufacturing company. A different company is Barrett Caleb Publications, an educational publisher, and Whole Foods Market Incorporated that sells organic foods. Different products, different services, similar values. Patagonia, you see the 3 P's up there. Founder Yvon Chouinard models his behavior and creates his organizational policy actions through a culture of higher purpose, accountability, and transparency. His environmental initiatives in raw material sourcing, production, and distribution follow these principles. The employee motivation, rewards, and other initiatives follow the people part of people, planet, and profits. Customer satisfaction, listening to the customer, incorporating the customer suggestions into the value chain. Sustainable practices in supply chain. See the next slide that's coming up. Okay, so the examples of Patagonia's sustainable practices, and these are just a few of them, there are many more. Responsibly sourced merino wool, groundbreaking partnerships with the Nature Conservancy, a not-for-profit organization, and Ovis 21 are used to promote sustainable grazing practices for the sheep that produce the merino wool in the Patagonian region. The finest merino wool comes from there. That goes into the clothes of Patagonia. Organic cotton, grown in the United States. Patagonia was an initial and early supporter of organic cotton. The lowdown on down, the down that's taken from geese, how the geese are treated, how that down is taken from live birds is done humanely. And we have seen, very many activists that have gone against McDonald's for their particular how they kill the animals and how they kill chickens and so on. This has been a lesson for Patagonia in giving the highest assurance that the geese that supply the down will be treated humanely. And then changing ports in terms of transportation and the use of fuel-efficient transportation vehicles in the distribution chain and delivery methods is another example of Patagonia's values. Patagonia says it wants to be in business for a good long time, and a healthy planet is necessary for a healthy business. They say, we want to act responsibly, live within our means, and leave behind not only a habitable planet, but an Earth whose beauty and biodiversity is protected for those who come after us. It's a very, very conscious value. And they go on to say that we think that business can inspire solutions to the environmental crisis, and that we owe those that work in the textile industry fair labor practices and safe working conditions. I'm going to move on now to Barrett-Kaler. Barrett-Kaler as a benefit corporation. The founder and CEO, Steve Piersanti, models by his behavior and creates by his policy actions a culture of higher purpose, accountability, and transparency. He uses a collaborative model. This is so different from the regular publishing houses. Actually, the CEO was actually a CEO in a major traditional corporate publishing house, and he moved and changed his mission when he created Barrett-Kaler Publications. He uses a collaborative model that brings together authors, editors, and outside reviewers for deeply interactive processing in edits and production. In traditional publishing houses, the authors are given very short shift. People look through their work, correct it or reject it, and it's very distant from the author. This model is very close. The author comes in, spends a lot of time with all these different personalities that are going to be part of the process in both editing and production. Employee motivation at Barrett-Kaler focuses on this inclusive process, working directly with the authors, trying to understand what they need to do, connectedness to the project, and workplace innovation. Sustainability focus in publishing, we can see that in all the titles that Barrett-Kaler comes up with. They don't do many titles a year. They do very few titles, but their titles challenge conventional thinking in their content. Barrett-Kaler's values are creating a world that works for all, and its statement of values is Barrett-Kaler has a deep sense of responsibility to administer this company for the benefit of all our stakeholder groups, authors, customers, employees, investors, community, and the environment around us. I'm going to move on to Whole Foods Market. Whole Foods Market is a benefit corporation. The CEO, John Mackey, and by the way, he wrote with the Professor Rajendra Sisodia the recent book called Conscious Capitalism. Well, he models by his behavior and creates by his policy actions a culture of higher purpose, accountability, and transparency. Their motto is whole foods, whole people, whole planet. That motto is the motto underlying sustainability. It underlies the declaration of the interdependence of people, planet, and profits, the 3 Ps. It underlies their support of team member happiness. What an interesting term, happiness, for team members. Happiness and excellence. Satisfying, delighting, and nourishing customers is also falls under their motto. Supporting local and global communities. They feel they're part of the environment in which they work. And wealth creation and growth. No business can continue without creating wealth. So they do have an emphasis on profits as well. Whole Foods Market's values, one of their slogans is America's healthiest grocery store. And they ask, who are we? Well, we seek out the finest natural and organic foods available, maintain the strictest quality standards in the industry, and have an unshakable commitment to sustainable agriculture. Add to that the excitement and fun we bring to shopping for groceries, and you start to get a sense of what we're all about. And yes, we're also a mission-driven company. So to conclude, the benefit corporation falls into a new fourth sector corporate class, a class that integrates for-profit and not-for-profit firms. Benefit corporations represent a new paradigm in organizational strategy, design, and behavior. Their aim is to link two concepts that are held in false dichotomy, that is private interest and public benefit. They feel that they can link these two values together. They are not dichotomized. Benefit corporations seek to maximize benefit to all stakeholders through new legal architecture. We talked about that earlier. To conclude, the benefit corporation is moving conscious capitalism ideology that has been growing over time to widespread cultural reality. As first movers in this trend, Barrett-Kohler, Patagonia, and Whole Foods, among several other benefit corporations, are leading the way and providing strategic benchmarks that other businesses can emulate. And I have given you a selected bibliography. Of course, anyone who wants a larger one can write to me. Thank you very much.